Tell us a little bit about the company. What would you specialise in? What's the main thing?
Well, so we're general practice. So but because of the area that we're in, there's a lot of construction industry clients that we have. But it's really broad. So it can also be scrap dealers, jewellers.
So you could run from, say, Fred the plumber on his own to £100 million company.
Exactly.
Doing the audits.
Yeah, that's it.
So
And you get a really
range.
broad. Yeah.
So that's excellent. So Lorraine, you're here. You're going to be a main part of what we're doing on the podcast, because you're going to basically be here in stages, advising people on how to set up a business, what to look for along the way, what director means, sole trade, all that thing. So what we'll do today, if we could just give us a brief outline of, I'm interested in starting a business. I don't know anything about it. I don't know about an accountancy. I don't know about banks. I don't know anything. How do I get started?
Yeah. Okay. So I think so. You might be currently employed, and you might be thinking, I want to do the same job but for myself, or you might want to do something completely different. And so it's just really having a look. What is it you want to do, and first of all, how much is it going to cost to do it. So not only how much do you need to live on, so you need to look at your current situation. What is your what do you pay rent? Yeah, exactly. Like that, mortgage, gas, electricity, all of that you need to earn to live. And then the cost of providing the service or buying the goods that you want to supply. How much is that going to cost? But then on top of that, you've got the overheads as well that you'll have to pay out. Exactly. No matter how much you sell, you'll have to pay that every.
So do you advise doing everyone to do a small business plan first?
Absolutely, yeah.
Get an idea of what their outgoings are.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than starting a business and realising after a couple of months you can't afford to pay your mortgage, or you can't afford to pay your rent. Now you're in serious trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not enjoying it either.
No,
it's gone
exactly.
to that stage.
Yeah,
so the first thing you really advise people is do a little business plan.
Yeah.
See if you think the figures add up, where you can at least have a period of time where you're either using some savings, make provision for your first couple of months.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly, because your costs will start from day one, but it might take a bit of time for your income to start building up. So,
So, obviously, there's different business structures from a sole trader to a limited company.
Yeah.
What's the slight differences taking us through from a sole trader to a limited company?
Yeah, so you've got the sole traders, for that side of it, you as the individual are registered as the business. So you personally are entitled to the profits of the business. You'll pay personal tax on those profits, but on the other side of it, you personally are liable for any losses or liabilities. So sole trader is you as the business.
So you basically, sole traders tend to be someone working for themselves. How many employees could you have as a sole trader?
Yeah, so there's no limit on that. So you would just have to register as an employer, and then you can have employees, as many as you need to run the business.
Is there any benefits of being a sole trader?
I think it's very simple structure. So because you're entitled to all the profits, it's just you as the business. So the admin that's involved is less because you're only having to look at yourself and deal with your own personal taxes.
So I'm a sole trader. I've just earned £100.
Yeah.
That £100 is basically mine.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I could then just draw that as a salary. And just take it basically.
Well, yeah, you can just draw it out of the.
And so where would and when it comes to say like a tax return on that, what would I be doing? Just a self-assessment?
Yeah, so if you wanted to register as a sole trader, you'd have to let HMRC know by the 5th of October following the tax year end. So we've just finished the 24-25 tax year, so up to 5th of April 25. So if you started being a sole trader in that year, you'd have to register by the 5th of October 25. And then HMRC will say, give you a notice to say you have to fill out a tax return, and on that you record your total income for the year, your total expenses, and that is your that works out your profits.
That works out your profit.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on from a sole trader? Where do we go next?
Yeah, so if there's more than one of you, that if you're looking to start a business with a friend, or then you could be a partnership. So that would be very similar to a sole trader, except there's 2 or more people that's in business together. For that side of it, I think it's very good idea to have a partnership agreement. So that just sets out from the beginning everybody's entitlement to the share of the profits, the process for leaving the partnership or joining the partnership, if there are any disputes. From the outset, you've got it all documented and everybody signed to agree.
So you need some sort of agreement. But would you need a solicitor or someone to do it? Could you do it yourself?
You can do it yourself, but it's one of those things that if you did, it would be an idea to get sort of legal advice. But if you wanted to keep it simple, you can do it yourself.
What if you'd done one and you both signed it, but then I said, oh, I didn't sign that, or that wasn't in it when I signed it? How do you get over disagreements?
So it's tricky, that one, because if you've both signed something, then at that stage
you need it witnessed, then maybe.
Yeah, witness. And
these things come up, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Unfortunately, they do come up. Like 2 people get together, they start a little business. One feels he's doing more than the other, and it doesn't work out. One moves away, and you're left with this partnership where someone's got a stake in your business, basically.
Yeah.
So basically, a legal agreement, getting it signed by someone would be really helpful in a partnership.
Yeah, definitely.
What's the tax implication on a partnership? Are they the same as a sole trader?
Yeah, same as a sole trader. So whatever your share of the profit is, just goes onto your tax return, and then you get taxed personally. You pay personal tax on that. I would also recommend that the partnership is registered with HMRC, so it's an entity that's registered, and then you'd have to do a partnership tax return as well. So the admin just becomes slightly more if there's a partnership, because you're having to do a partnership tax return and a self-assessment tax return as well. Yeah.
So now we've moved on from partnership.
Yeah.
We're on to limited company. Is that the next stage?
Yeah, so you can have, so there's 2 sort of incorporated entities. You've got a limited liability partnership, which is the same as a partnership, except you're actually registered at Companies House and it's a separate legal entity. And the benefit of that for people is that there is a limit to your liability. So whereas if you're in a partnership or a sole trader, you personally are liable for losses, whereas if you're in limited liability partnership, then you can lose what you put into the partnership, but there is that extra protection.
Yes, interesting. I don't know many people who've got that.
No, it doesn't tend to be. It's more sort of solicitors, things like that. Like people like
certain
that.
industries would be in that area.
Yeah, that's it. Architects, they tend to prefer the LLPs. Yeah,
you do see it sometimes, but it says limited partnership.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Is that an easy way to? I've got an architect company. Fred's been with me 5 years. I want to bring him into the company now.
Yeah.
So he would come in as a partner?
Yeah, exactly. And that would all be in the partnership agreement, the process or the procedure of partners joining. And then it's just from the date that they join the partnership, then whatever their share of the profits are, they would report that on their self-assessment tax return. Yeah.
So moving on to the big one now, starting a limited company.
Yeah, so that is the probably the most complex business to own, because it's a separate legal entity, but there are lots of extra responsibilities that come with having a limited company. So the company has the company has the sales and expenses. So the sales will be in the company's name. The expenses need to be in company name. So if you have any contracts, rent, anything like that, mobile phone, all of that needs to be in the company's name. It's a separate legal entity to you. So the profits of the company belong to the company, not to you. Mm-hmm. The company pays corporation tax on those profits. So and that at the moment is between 19 and 25%. And then you personally only get taxed when you draw money out, either something like salary or dividends. You need to have certain roles, so there are directors who are responsible for running the company, and they'd also be making sure that they keep the company records up to date, that the accounts are filed on time, that the corporation tax return is filed on time, and the tax is paid. Yeah.
So what we'll do on a later stage, we'll actually do the role of a director.
Okay.
I think it's quite a bigger area, isn't it? And we can really go through that, and because I've been caught a few times on the director thing where I've been a director for people and things haven't gone to plan.
Yeah.
So I'd like to sort of have a good chat about that.
Yeah, of course.
You know. So on the other side of the limited company, then, basically, what's the benefit of paying the corporation tax if you can be in the partnership or the sole trader?
Yeah. So the benefit is of a limited company that you've got that protection. So again, you can only you could lose what you put into the company, but there is that protection for you personally. Also, if you have very big profits or profits that fluctuate, then the company will pay a maximum of 25% corporation tax on those profits, whereas you personally, if you were a sole trader and you earned very high, you could pay as much as 45% personal tax on that. So it's a way of keeping profits in a company, and then you can draw money out in a tax efficient way.
So you think it is worth having a limited company?
Yeah,
there's benefits to having a limited company.
yeah, definitely.
Because on the app, when you see it and say, I've got a corporate company, but I'm paying corporation tax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a benefit to paying those corporation tax.
Yes. Yeah.
So you got is that the main aspects of the company then, from a sole trader, partnership to a limited company?
Yeah, I would say
that's
so.
where we are with it.
Yeah, they're the main ones that people would choose from. So I think people. You tend to maybe start with a sole trader because it's the most simple and least admin, and while you're sort of getting the business going, and it sort of keeps your costs down as well. But also on the there's always the option of incorporating and becoming a limited company later on down the line.
So you can change it as you're progressing.
Exactly.
Basically.
That's it. If it becomes bigger and you just want that extra sort of separation.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the main aspects now. So I'm making a decision now. What do I want to do? So I've decided I want to be a limited company. What's my next step?
Yeah, so there are, you can set it up yourself. There are formation agents that you can use if you search for them online, and they just help with the paperwork side of it. You could do it yourself via Companies House, or you could, if you've got an accountant, then they will help you through the process.
And you advise really get an accountant, get someone on board at this stage?
I think so, at the early stage, because if you set up everything correctly at the start, then it reduces what you have to do sort of later on down the line in terms of changes, because an accountant can advise you on who to be a director, like from we discuss it with you and see who's the best person to be hold the director roles.
Secretary.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the role of a secretary?
So it's not actually, you don't need a company secretary anymore. So they have the sort of responsibility of making sure that the filing, things like that is up to date. But it's not actually, the ultimate responsibility is with the director. So companies don't have to have those anymore. Would you find you as an
accountant would do more the secretary role? Would you be just saying, no, you need to submit this, or you need to...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's it. So it's not really in the formal appointed company secretary role, but we do.
So it's something you could do like that. So
yeah,
exactly. You don't really need a secretary, but do you actually need a secretary? Don't you?
No, that's it.
It used to be that. Who is the secretary?
Yeah, they removed that requirement.
So they've removed that. Okay, well, that's good. So, we've done that. We set up the company. I've gone to you. You said this is what you need to do. We've done the role.
Yeah.
Next stage would be setting up something like a bank account.
Yeah, definitely. So with a company, it has to have a separate bank account in the company name. And
is that different to a sole trader?
Yeah, so sole trader, because the business is you, it's in your personal name. The thing to watch out for is that some people just use their personal bank account. So I'd always advise having a separate bank account to put your business transaction through, because it just really helps to
even
keep
as a sole trader.
Yeah, even as a sole trader, because it just really helps to keep the business transactions together, so they're easier for you to analyse and keep an eye on. But look at the terms and conditions or for the bank, because sometimes there are restrictions where you can't use personal bank accounts for business use. Okay. So just make sure that it's you're allowed to. Or it's a business bank account.
So I'm a sole trader and I'm using my own bank account.
Yeah.
Can I register for VAT?
So sole traders can register for VAT.
And could I use my own personal bank account?
Yeah, I think it depends on the terms and conditions of the bank, if they allow business, because sometimes people they don't really think about it and they just start using their personal bank account, and then later on down the line the bank actually may come and contact you and just to question what the transactions are, and if they find that it's business and it's excluded, then they can ask you to set up a business bank account.
Because you've got the main banks, and then you've got all these other little banks now.
Yeah.
So are they all the same, or?
I think there's loads of really good options now, and it's a really good thing to have a look at the market, because particularly the fees can be quite. They can ramp up. Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah. So look at the transaction fee, if there's a regular monthly fee, and just with your business, just have a look and see what you expect the fees to be, and sort of that can help. Yeah, exactly. With
what's
your
the threshold on VAT?
So it's currently 90,000. So that's compulsory registration. So looking back 12-month period, and that's a rolling 12-month period. If your turnover goes over 90,000. You have to register for VAT. Also, if you're expecting to have £90,000 of income in the next 30 days, that's another point where you have to register. So if you've got a £100,000 contract,
you know you can over this threshold.
Exactly.
What about, can you voluntary register?
Yeah, absolutely. So some businesses they may choose to do that and actually voluntarily register, because if they work for customers that are VAT registered, then the VAT that they charge their customers can reclaim, so it doesn't make them any more expensive. And for the company itself that's done that voluntary registration, it means that you can
they can
reclaim.
Be more competitive, can't
exactly,
they?
Yeah.
If you're basically putting in a quote for £200 plus the VAT, it's a lot more. And if you can't claim that VAT back, then your quotes are sort of a lot dearer, because you're going to be paying the VAT on your materials. You have to pay that regardless whether you're VAT registered or not.
Exactly, that's it. So it really much depends who your clients are, and sort of.
Again, these are all things really why you do need an accountant.
Yeah, it's all
just to go through those processes with them and basically find out what the best way to go forward is as a company. Yeah. So we do really. I think we should advocate that you do really need an accountant. Don't really try and do it alone. What about if you're basically just on a single trader, just on the CSCS, like a UTR number?
Oh, so sort of like the construction industry scheme?
Yeah. If you're taxed on that, is that just a self-assessment?
Yeah, so the construction industry scheme, so if you register with HMRC as so you're a sole trader, but also you work in the construction industry as a subcontractor, then when you do work for a contractor, they pay you your invoice, but they will deduct 20% tax and just pay that straight to HMRC for you. So at the end of the year, when you come to do your tax return, you'll work out your business profits and the tax that you owe, but then you can account for the tax that has already been paid on your behalf, and there might be a balance in payment for you to make, or you might actually be due a refund if too much tax has been paid on your behalf.
So they're all self-employed, so they all have to do a self-assessment.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do that at the end of the year, and they gather their information. Again, they should go to an accountant or somebody.
Yeah,
just to get the basics done.
I think so, because it helps with the registration. If you don't register correctly as a subcontractor and you do work for a contractor, then they will actually deduct 30% tax if you're unregistered. So it's helping to make sure that you have the right amount of tax deducted.
So we've basically got the chap who's just on the UTR number.
Yeah.
We've now got the sole trader.
Yeah.
We've now got the partnership, and then we've now got the limited company.
Yeah.
Just on the limited company, I just want to go over some things before we move on from that.
Yeah.
You've got shareholders in that.
Yes.
So how does that work? How do we distribute the shares?
Yeah, so you can choose whoever you want to be a shareholder of your company. I mean, if it was a sole director, sole shareholder, so you were responsible for the running of the company, and you also owned 100% of the shares. So you can pay yourself a dividend, but it has to be out of distributable profits. So that is the profits that are available after corporation tax has been paid by the company. Then there'll be profits that you can then use to pay yourself a dividend. Yeah.
Okay. So, and if I've set the business up with 4 people, we would then divide the shares between 4 of them.
Yeah, it can be. You can decide whatever shareholding you want, so it doesn't have to be an even split. It can be uneven.
Okay, so I'm putting in more money to set up.
Yeah.
I can take 50% of the company. The other 2 partners take 25%.
Yeah, that's it.
So they're allowed to split it between what they
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
do.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you could also have different classes of shares, which so somebody could have ordinary shares, somebody could have ordinary A shares.
What does that mean?
And they would that would be the shares would be the same in every respect, except for they'd have their own entitlement to dividends.
Okay.
So you could pay one shareholder a dividend of 10,000 and another shareholder a dividend of 5,000. You decide. It's completely at the director's discretion.
Okay, so I've started a business up. There's 4 of us in it.
Yeah.
We're plodding along, but I'm not happy anymore. I want to get out.
Yeah.
A friend of mine said he'll buy my shares off me.
Okay.
Can I just sell them to him?
So I'd check the Articles of Association, because so they're the rules for running the company, and that deals with selling the shares. Assuming that there's no restriction and that you can sell them. There's also, I would suggest, a shareholders agreement that is put in from the start of. It's similar to the partnership agreement that we were talking about.
So really, should we
earlier.
basically, before we start the business, should we sit down and say, if one of us is not happy,
Yeah.
we do an agreement where the shares have to be offered to the other partners before we sell them on to somebody else?
Yeah, exactly. That's a common.
It's important to put things like that in, isn't it?
Yeah,
because people
definitely.
forget that and they just do that, and then there's a disagreement, and then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. So it is really important, isn't it, to just get some, because it doesn't always work out.
No, that's it. And I think that's why if you get it all documented at the start, and then should anything happen later on down the line, you've got the guidelines of what to do and that everybody's agreed to.
So we know I want to set up a business. I know now the outline where I want to go. Mm-hmm. I've set up my little bank account. I'm ready to start trading.
Yeah. So.
And that's where we are.
Yeah.
So basically, I'll leave it there, because basically we've covered just the basics to get people who just want to know how to start a business up. I'll leave it there, and then when you come back, we'll move on to stage 2 of what happens now. We've started up the business, and we can have a good chat about VAT, directors, the responsibility, all those sort of things. Okay. So thanks for coming in. I know you're going to come in again. We're going to sort of go through this. We're going to go through next stages. I'm sure everyone's going to be interested to hear where we're going and all. If anyone's interested in your company, give us a bit of details on it.
Yeah, so you can have a look at our website. So that's clayratnage.co.uk, and all our contact details are on there.
Lovely. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to see you, and I'll see you again on the next episode.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lorraine. I think that was all right.